Hi, I'm Emma. I'm the Health and Wellbeing Champion here at Pinewood House for Oxleys. I'm joined here by Mark, our Trust Sport and Fitness Lead, and welcome to our first Health and Wellbeing podcast for our Oxleys colleagues. So we're in 2024 already, mid-January, and we're hosting this week our first Wellbeing Week, and our theme is fitness free for all. So we're really going to be talking about things like tips from Mark in terms of how we can exercise for free, what does fitness really mean to us, and what it means to Mark. But we're also going to be talking about sleep hygiene and how that really affects our well-being, especially for night workers as well. So Mark's going to be talking about some tips to do with that. But we'll also delve into all of the offers and taster sessions and free resources that we're offering our Oxley staff this week as well. So, Mark, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That's okay. So, fitness. We're talking about fitness and what it means to you and to some people here. So, 2nd of January, I think I went for my first run, New Year's resolution, going to run every day, but I haven't run since. So, it's really about having realistic goals and not being upset if you don't achieve them, and having maybe some mini goals before the real target sometimes. I know that's where I find my downfall is, not having those, making sure that I'm hitting my target with the mini goals and not the end goal to start with. I'm watching Gladiators at the moment with the family. I don't know if that counts, but, that's really getting myself and my family motivated in terms of more exercise and things. So just wanted to ask what fitness means to you and what tips you've got in terms of free tips for our staff working around their shift patterns and things.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So first of all, well done for making a start with your New Year's resolution. However, don't beat yourself up that you weren't able to kind of maintain that. I think it's kind of quite the norm now with most people. They set themselves some goals, albeit unrealistic goals, and then as soon as they fall off the wagon, 1 week, 2 weeks into January, I think 12th of January was known as National Quitters Day, when people were least likely to follow through with their New Year's resolution. So again, don't be too hard on yourself.
Maybe we should blame the weather.
Yeah,
it's not been the best weather. Good start to January.
Sure, and if we look at today, ideally I would have liked to have done this conversation out walking, but I don't think Steve would have liked to be walking along with his camera in the wind and rain.
Yes.
So we'll settle for here, but it's a lovely facility. I won't digress. So let me look at what fitness means for myself, and then what I think it might mean for colleagues. So if we look at the word fitness, it's being able to carry out a task with relatively ease and not kind of being in pain or fatigue. And you mentioned about gladiators, and one of the unfortunate things about mainstream media, social media, etc., is that it's kind of portraying fitness to be this unrealistic goal for most people. A rippling six-pack, bulging muscles, glutes, etc. But actually, fitness is just, like I said, carrying out everyday tasks. We say in occupational therapy, active daily living, and that's essentially what I think as individuals we should be looking to improve. If we look at the Chief Medical Officer for England's recommendation on physical activity, it's 150 minutes a week of moderate activity.
Yes.
Let's choose walking for argument's sake, because with walking, it's free.
Yeah.
It's low-hanging fruit, meaning there's no skill required.
Yes.
And if we look at 150 minutes a week, break that down, 30 minutes, 5 days a week. For yourself personally, do you feel that's something that's kind of realistic or achievable?
I think we all naturally, we do our steps in our daily routine, but we don't actually factor in that bit of exercise, so it's walking, jogging, running, some people are cycling and things like that. So I think it's just had that behaviour change about making sure we prioritise ourselves and some physical activity, whether it's before work, before your shift, a lunch break or after work, but it's getting that sort of motivation, isn't it? I think, after work, we're tired, we've been on our feet all day if you're working a shift, or you've been in front of a screen all day. You go home, it might be dark, you're tired, you're hungry. So, what can we do to make sure that we go and make sure we actually undertake a physical wellbeing activity, whether that's a gym, a class. We've got the Queen Mary's gym, which we'll be talking about later. or even at home. You know, we're in a world where we have access to so much virtually, so you can exercise for free at home during those classes. You know, we've all heard of Joe Wicks and things like that. So, I think it's just making sure that we factor that in, and we're probably consciously doing those sort of minutes that they've suggested, but actually making them realistic and making them happen can be a bit of a challenge, I think.
Sure. And I'm glad you mentioned about, putting it into everyday life when you're working at Oxley's. When the Chief Medical Officer makes some recommendations, the 150 minutes, that's just to get to baseline. Mm-hmm. So that's just to be able to have a life where you're least likely to develop a comorbidity, be it obesity, diabetes, arthritis, or at least be able to manage it in as least pain as possible. Yeah. So what I was quite keen to talk about today is, again, let's give colleagues that are listening or watching some actionable takeaways. So here's my first one.
Okay.
And that's basically with the steps and walking. So let's say, for example, you're doing a 12-hour shift on one of the wards. After 12-hour shift, as you said, you're not really going to feel in the mood for being able to go out for a walk outside, depending on what time of day or what time of the year it is. So if you look at your day-to-day tasks, observations, doing your obs and your checks are imperative. It's part of the clinical part of the role. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing that several times a day, one of the things that I've looked at when I've gone on to like some of the inpatient wards is that a lot of the wards environmentally and the structures are all kind of identical. And I've done like laps with myself with service users, and I calculate like 20 laps, for example, would equate to 1 kilometre. So let's say you're doing your obs, you've done your checks, you're walking, and if you can kind of make a mental check or even just do like a little tally on your clipboard, over the course of a 12-hour shift, you might have covered anywhere between 3 to 5 kilometres. So when you finish for the day, you've hit your steps. Yeah. So that's just like one simple way you could do that. Let's move it into corporate setting. If you work in a building that has multiple floors and you're going to go to use like the toilet or going to use the kitchen for your lunch, can you go one that's further away or another floor? Just by implementing them steps, be it walking up steps, you've had a little bit of resistance training there as well because you're doing the step ups. And although it might seem kind of small, a win's a win. If you can hit those daily steps, you're on your way to hitting those baseline 150 minutes per week. And again, you mentioned about behaviour change, and it is motivation ebbs and flows. You're going to find days, where you're going to feel motivated, and you're going to find days you're not so motivated. But if you can build it into your work life, it will just make it a little bit more seamless. Yeah. And like I say, behaviour change is key to do that. Making it part of your habit, making it part of your lifestyle. Yeah,
I think there's so much pressure this time of year, isn't it? Because it's so out there about getting fit. It's a new year, you want to feel different and things like that. People are booking holidays, people have got things to look forward to and things like that. And it's just making sure that you don't put that pressure on yourself, but be realistic. If you said to me, Emma, you need to go out at lunchtime, go for your walks around the grounds, I'd feel a bit pressured because I don't think that's realistically something I could fit in. But if you said to me, Emma, when you pop your lunch in the microwave or whatever it is, go for some laps or take a different route to the toilet like you suggested. I think they're the little things that I think that I can make a change and make happen. So that's definitely something I'll be taking away from today and those tips as well. And something you've mentioned to me, which I really need to get back, is walking meetings. You always do them. I'm always jealous, and I think, I really need to build that into my work style. So I think if you're able to undertake walking meetings and things like that, Mark's got some really good tips in terms of routes you can walk, making notes on your phone. I think you've said to me, making audio notes, because I'm someone who likes to have pen and paper. When you're doing a walking meeting, that can be quite difficult. But Mark's got some really good tips, which we'll be sharing on the Ox about walking meetings and things like that. So, I think that's something I'll be taking away, just trying to be more physical and try and get out when the weather's maybe a little bit better as well.
Sure. And, just to add as well, we've spoken about the 150 minutes. The recommendations again from the Chief Medical Officer of England is to have at least 2 days resistance training. Resistance training, again, doesn't naturally have to be done in the gym. It could be done, with doing everyday tasks, moving heavy objects from A to B. Maybe not this time of the year, but when it gets to spring, summer, gardening, things like that. Obviously, a gym environment would be ideal because you've got access to what I call the exercise equipment tools. Essentially, that's what they are. They can look intimidating, but essentially they're tools for the individual to use to increase, bone strength, muscular strength, etc. So in terms of kind of aiming to try and do at least 2 resistance training sessions a week, obviously we're going to mention about the new staff gym opening up at Queen Mary's Hospital.
Yeah.
And I think, again, if we can start to make those small changes into our lifestyle and into our habits, again, it's going to help us feel a bit more healthier.
Yeah.
We mentioned obviously physically, but mentally as well. You can get that endorphin release from being able to do the walking or lifting weights or even playing sport.
Yeah.
Yourself play netball?
Yes,
Yeah.
netball.
So netball, for some of the guys that I work with at the Bracton, some of them play football. So I think you've got to find something you enjoy as well. So
Oh, yes. There's no way I would go out for, I wouldn't go out or leave my house if it wasn't for a team challenge or, something that, I absolutely love and enjoy. And I think if you can find that, I think that's really precious to you and your well-being. It's also social as well. It's nice to have that social element too. If you can link that in with your sport, whatever it is, it might be football, it might be cycling, swimming. I think that's such a healthy thing to have.
And again, we mentioned it as well about the Health and Wellbeing Hub on the Ox. Definitely use it. It's a good tool to use because it can find some information on there that might be able to signpost to what's available to you locally as well, not just in your place of work. So again, if you can make a conscious effort with keeping on your feet with the steps, etc., but also at the same time, taking your breaks. Some people, or a lot of colleagues rather, are renowned for not taking lunch breaks.
Mm-hmm.
I know we talk about physical activity. We're not really going to touch on nutrition because I'll leave that another time when you get a dietitian to come in and speak. But
that's
again,
part 2.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you can talk about taking your breaks as well, your lunch breaks, etc. And we talked about resistance training, the new gym. Obviously, it's live now. It's open. Again, there's information on the Ox to that. Is that everything we've covered for physical activity?
Something else we was going to ask you was about sleep hygiene.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So as Mark said, we've got some tools and resources to do with sleep patterns. There's actually a sleep test on our Health and Wellbeing Hub where you can monitor how your sleep's going. Some of you may have sort of like Fitbits and things like that do that as well. But I think we sort of wanted to talk to you about night shifts, our workers that work night shifts and long shifts and tips for kind of how we deal with that and how it affects their well-being as well, because it's a bit of a game changer when you're working so many nights in a row. That can have a real impact, especially when you've got a daily routine, if you've got a family and things like that. So it's just sort of asking you sort of tips on sleep hygiene and patterns.
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to sleep, everything we've spoken about so far about the physical activity, being active, etc., none of that's going to be applicable if you're not getting adequate sleep, because sleep is the foundation. I've said to you previously about a fitness pyramid, and at the bottom, at the foundation level, is sleep,
which I think people forget. I think we think gym, classes, running, walking, when actually sleep is a major part to this.
And it doesn't help, like you said earlier, about when you're scrolling through your phone.
Yes.
We're all guilty of it, laying in bed or at home on the sofa late at night scrolling for our phone. We should actually be thinking more about our sleep hygiene. Maybe getting ourselves to bed a little bit earlier, or reducing blue light from the device that we're using. But
not falling asleep in front of the telly and things like that. I think we're all guilty of that.
But I think if we, again, making it something we can put into action here and relative to our colleagues is there's night shifts. So I've done a few night shifts as well. So I've kind of felt firsthand how kind of important it is once the night shift's finished to be able to go and get some quality sleep.
Absolutely.
Just by speaking to some of the colleagues that I've worked with on night shifts, they'll finish a night shift, they'll go home, they'll see to the family, they'll do the school drop off, they might go home, they might get a couple of hours here and there, and then they do the school pick up, and then before you know it, they're going back to work again, do another night shift. Now, that's not adequate rest.
No, that's not enough. I'm already feeling tired just thinking about it.
So not adequate rest, that's going to impact your cognitive performance and your physical performance as well. So a couple of little things in terms of when you're finishing that night shift, particularly if it's kind of a bright day as well, is reducing the amount of time you get from the sunlight.
Yeah.
Sunglasses would be ideal, even if it's overcast. That bright light is still going to impact you in terms of your circadian rhythm. Mm-hmm. So if you can get home, obviously see to your family and obviously the important stuff that you need to do. But then after that, even get an eye mask, maybe some blackout blinds as well. Yeah. If you're living in a place where you've got kind of noisy roads, etc., you could put some kind of earbuds in, mm-hmm. or use white noise as well for some people. At least that way, okay, you may only get like maybe 5 hours, but at least you're going to be getting quality sleep.
Yeah.
And you're going to feel refreshed and you're ready to go back into your night shift again.
Yeah.
Like I say, I've experienced it myself. I know I kind of how difficult and how challenging it is. And, for some of our colleagues that work in inpatient units, etc., you need to make sure your cognitive performance is switched on, you're alert. Sleep, make sure you prioritise it.
Yeah.
And set in them good habits. And, if you live with other members of the family, it's something that you could probably do together as a family, and work on good sleep hygiene.
And it's free.
And it's free. I think if they were to bottle sleep up and sell it, you'd be a millionaire in terms of the benefits that it gives you. So, again, sleep, as I say, sleep's free and it's very important.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you. I think we also wanted to touch on, sort of the taster sessions and events and things that are happening this week as part of your Fitness for Free week. You may have seen on the Ox, we're sending out daily tips and daily resources and things like that. So please look on the Ox for more information. But just to touch on a few things, we've got our wellbeing champions. So our wellbeing champions support the trust in visiting colleagues, doing wellbeing check-ins, and just coming to see how people are getting on. So they're going to be doing that this week, coming out to sites, checking in with people, and basically raising awareness and highlighting all of the resources that are available to you as an Oxley staff member. We've also got some virtual online yoga. So we've got one this evening on Wednesday at 5 p.m, Friday at 5 p.m, and that's an online yoga session. So if you like that, please get involved. We've got kickboxing as well. So locally to the southeast and in London, we've got some taster sessions if you fancy a bit of kickboxing. Do you fancy that, Mark? Bit of the next Karate Kid?
Yeah, why not?
Next Karate Kid. We've also got some martial arts taster sessions in Exeter as well, which you can sign up to, and all the details are on the Ox for you. It's National Walk Your Dog Month. Did you know that?
I didn't.
Now you do. So we're encouraging people, because people love going for walks, taking their pets for walks and things. So we are hoping to host a Oxy's Walk Your Dog Day in February. So look out for more information on that on the Ox. We are also doing a big team virtual challenge. So we're hoping in February to launch a team virtual walk. So we're hoping to walk from the Isle of Sheppey to Dartmoor, and basically teams will compete against each other in terms of the steps, and it's just about bringing people together, a bit of a competitive feel, and basically introducing more physical wellbeing activities for us, and there'll be some lovely prizes for teams to win. So speak to your teams about it in your team meetings and things. If you want to be involved with that would be great. And Mark has already mentioned our staff gym. Have you been to the staff gym at Queen Mary's?
I haven't been yet. I'm just going through my application process, actually. I'm back to watch the e-induction as well, to make sure I'm using the exercises safely. But yeah, it's a great asset that staff will be able to have at Oxley's. Always not convenient for most people sometimes, in terms of being able to travel somewhere to a gym, but at least we've got it in a place of work. That makes it more accessible, which is great, and hopefully, further down the line, we might see some other sites provide something similar.
Yeah, I think that would be really good. I think that's something we talk about, having access to things like that. But for anyone that's not based at Queen Mary's, you can get parking permits arranged and everything. So when you submit your membership form, you'll get the details in terms of how you access the gym, the hours, and parking and things like that. So definitely look on the Ox for more information on that. We've also opened our Woodland Walk, our nature trail at Goldie Lee. I've not been there yet myself, but I think once the weather gets a bit better better, I'd definitely be taking a walk over there. So again, on the Ox for more information. We've also got Friday, the 26th of January, is the London Great Mental Health Day. So that's really about bringing communities together to understand about local opportunities in terms of wellbeing in their area. So there's lots of information coming out about that on social media, lots of walks and talk gatherings and things like that. If it's something you can't reach, you could do your own local walks and talks and things like that. So there'll be more information coming out this week about that as well. And of course, as we've mentioned, our health and wellbeing hub, it's a great document where it has a wealth of resources to do with mental wellbeing, physical wellbeing, family wellbeing, financial wellbeing as well. So there's lots of things on there. I'd recommend that you go onto there, and we're constantly updating it. We're trying to make sure we're current and keeping things up to date for our staff, so they can access that. So I think that was everything from us, but we hope you've really enjoyed your wellbeing week. Mark, thanks for joining us.
No problem, it's been a
We're
pleasure.
hoping this is a first of many of our health, wellbeing, fitness podcasts, and we hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.